What's going on, guys? This is Multicubing here, and welcome back once again to our simple 3x3 tutorial series. Today, of course, now that we've finished the edge and the corner, I am going to show you how to finish up the centerpiece. This is going to be a bit of a longer episode because this kind of has two parts to it, because you have to, first of all, finish up this whole piece, and then you have to separate it into this, the main part of the centerpiece, and the cap. Just like everything else, first thing you want to do is start it with your outer fillets. With this, it's actually okay to not use a variable fillet. It's not super important. It doesn't really make much of a difference. Another thing as well, I've heard that it's not the most appealing looking thing that I have the taskbar here, but I do have it here for a reason. In case I need to go in the files for any of this stuff here, is so that you guys can see it, because otherwise I would not be able to show any window other than Inventor. So like this, it just records the whole monitor and it makes things a lot easier for me, and it makes the video seem more fluid to you. Anyway, what you want to do for the centerpiece is only just standard kind of rounding, and I'm going to go ahead and see what 4mm looks like. That might be, no, I'm going to go ahead and use 5. I think 5 is nice. It's not too round, but it's fairly round, and it helps with reverse corner cutting and all that. And just like everything else, I'm going to go ahead and round this part with 1mm because it doesn't stick out much, so that's a nice number to use for the other rounding here. Now, depending on how you print this, it's not going to make any difference anyway, and chances are it's going to be completely flat, but it's nice to do anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and, before I hit apply, I'm going to put a nice 0.75mm fillet on these 4 lines here and hit apply. Now, before I continue with any of this, you need to use delete face and make sure you remove all of these faces here, because they are not necessary. You don't need the stock, you don't need any of that. You can get rid of it and it causes no issues. And then check heal, and there you go. And then there's one more fillet which needs to be done, and that's just this outer fillet, for which 0.75 should be probably good. And I'm actually going to go ahead and go back into fillet 1 and change this underside fillet to 1mm as well. There we go. Alright, that's nice. That should be a good centerpiece. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now the next step, you need to use plane, offset from plane, click this, and bring it down by about, say, -2mm. So that should be the about thickness of your centerpiece. I'm going to go ahead and do 1.5. It depends on what settings you're using for your printing, because that determines how strong the cap's going to be, but I think 1.5 should be fine. The next thing we need to use the split tool like we did to make the whole cube, and just select the plane like that. There you go. And then what you're going to want to do, I'm going to change this to be -2, just in case. You can still make room for the screw and all the hardware and stuff, so it's not a big deal if it's a thicker centerpiece. Center cap, I mean. And now what you need to do is do manage, make components, and then select these 2 parts. And then you got to make sure it's going to be called center.im, which is the assembly file type, and you need to make sure it's a millimeter assembly, just like before. And once again, you need to make sure that the files are in millimeters as well. And there we go, just hit apply. And there you go, so that's done. And for the sake of getting this out of the way, I'm going to make that work plane invisible. So now we have the assembly where we have the cap and the main body separately. So I'm going to just save it, and they're going to be called solid 3 and solid 2 respectively. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the center cap first, like so. So here's the center cap, and as you can see, this clearly is not going to be doing a whole lot right now. So we need to, on the underside, make a new sketch. And then what I'd like to do is I project this geometry and offset it by about 1.5mm, and then offset it again by like 1.5mm. Whatever you want, it's up to you, but this is kind of a nice setting, and you can fiddle around with it and see what works best with your printer. So that's that. And then all you need to do is extrude, and I'm gonna go with like 3mm. Nah, it's a bit short. 4.5 should be nice. Yeah, there we go. That's a nice length. So there we go, 4.5mm for that centerpiece. And that's it. So that's the center cap done. So we can just save that. And now we need to go into Solid 3 from the assembly. Open it, and now we need to say very similar process here. Project the whole face, offset it by 1.5, and then that's it, because you don't need that weird rim thing in this. So you just need to get rid of all the material. And then in this case, you can go a lot deeper, but you need to make sure you don't go too close to the bottom, or else it's going to cause issues with strength. So I'm going to go ahead and use 8.5, which will leave 1.5 millimeters of thickness. A little bit more than that's probably fine as well. So if I use 8, that'll ensure that it's not going to be too weak, and there's about 2 millimeters of room. So there we go. So just hit OK there, and that's that. And then next thing you want to do is you just want to make a hole for your screw, and all you need to do for that, if you're using, it depends on what screw you're using. I'm using 3mm screws, so I used a 3.3mm hole to leave room for it. And just go ahead, extrude, click that, and then just make it go a long enough distance. You need to make sure it goes all the way through. We'll also increase this a little bit. There we go. That's nice. So now one other thing you can do to make this a little bit easier to take off the cap, because right now there's no way to get into this. You can go ahead and on this plane here, just make a nice rectangle. Make it about 2.5 millimeters or so, probably 2.25 is probably fine. And then make it about, 5 is probably good that way. And then just make it an equal distance from one side to the other side. There you go. And then we just do this here. And that should be probably good to help you take off the center cap. That might even be too much. I'm going to reduce it to 2. And need to make sure that it is in line with this line here. There we go. And then you can extrude it. And just make it go all the way. There we go. So that's going to make it, well, I like to do it on only 2 sides. If not, you can use a circular pattern and just select that and make it go around the axis 4 times, which I can show you by doing this. And then rotation axis, and that would be probably, and then you just say 4, and then you hit apply. But I'm only going to do 2 notches. And then just go ahead and hit save. And if you want as well, it's always a nice idea to round these off a bit to make them not super painful to touch. So probably 1 millimeter is fine. And that should be fine. So there we go. And it's important to note that when you're printing the centerpiece, these areas can cause some problems. It can be pretty annoying to get supports out, so be prepared to kind of deal with that. The thing is, in this case of the notch, I made it a bit bigger than normal, so it probably should be fine. But I'd have to wait and see. But anyway, that should be about everything. We can see we have, if we update this, we have the notches and the center cap in there quite nicely. So there we go. That should be easy enough to remove. And as well, if you want, you can chamfer this a bit so that it can be easier to insert. If you print it with this on the build plate, then you can have a chamfer there and it will help out with that kind of thing. But anyway, if we save that, there we go. That should be, I'm going to make this also go a little bit more just to make up for that chamfer that we just did. So that should be everything. There we go. Now that we have that, that's our centerpiece all done. Looking quite nice. Of course, we're not going to see that here because we made those changes to these pieces, but if we go back to here, we can still have an idea of what the final cube should look like. So this is looking, in my opinion, this is looking quite nice. So that's going to be it for this episode. I hope you guys found this informative and did enjoy, and if you did, once again, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to see the rest of this series. And anyways, I'm Multicubing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.